You know, I made a video a while back bashing future Gohan, and a lot of you guys show sympathy for him, bro. I didn't expect that many people to show sympathy for future Gohan, and that made me realize something, bro. That made me realize I was being too harsh on bro. I like these little what if Dragon Ball videos. So it's like, what if future Gohan somehow killed Android 17 and 18? My guess is that maybe him and Trunks still go back in the past and try to change the future somehow. But this time, Trunks bring Gohan with him and he could see his father again. Man, that'd be so tough. And then Goku could see how strong his son has grown. Well, strong isn't the word I'm looking for. Maybe how mature he's grown. I want to see. That would be so dope if future Gohan could train the teen Gohan that we see, or the kid Gohan that we see. That would be so dope.
Many of you guys have pointed out that a recent video I uploaded talking about how future Gohan's death actually meant something in Dragon Ball had an eerie coincidental upload timing to a recent Dokkan event in which future Gohan managed to defeat the androids. And let me just say right here that that's just purely a coincidence.
Ah, man. That's crazy though. Wait, hold on. I'm thinking now, bro. Because Frieza definitely came back to Earth. And if Trunks isn't like a Super Saiyan, I don't know how they beat Frieza, bruh. Hypothetically, if this Gohan is strong enough to take down Android 17 and 18, then he could probably kill Frieza with no problem. Let's just keep that a buck. So I don't think we gotta worry about that.
Many of you have actually asked me to do an actual what if on what if future Gohan actually defeated the future android somehow.
I ain't gonna lie, if future Gohan was able to kill Android 17 and 18, I ain't gonna lie to you, all he has to do is get Trunks to turn into a Super Saiyan as well, and then they got double hitters over there. It makes the Android saga or the Cell arc completely easier. That is if Vegeta and Krillin doesn't still sabotage, by the way. And if Cell somehow still reaches his perfect form, it still might go the same way.
And how it would change Dragon Ball history. Now, let me make it crystal clear at the absolute beginning of this video that I do not believe that this is a realistic what-if scenario in any way possible for a variety of different reasons. We will first begin with training.
Why can't it be? I mean, how would he get stronger? That's the question. Would he be able to transform into a Super Saiyan 2? Would he somehow get a mental amp or something like that? If it's a mental amp, yeah, I don't feel like it could last. But if it's something like him just getting stronger, then possibly I could see that happening. The thing about it, future Gohan didn't know how to unlock his potential. But if he just somehow gotten that angry to where it's like he just went crazy. It's the same Gohan, you gotta understand. It's still the same Gohan. So if he still got angry or just went out of control, it's still a possibility of that happening. It just never happened because that Gohan in the future, he was in fact different than the Gohan we all know and love. He didn't really get that angry. He was more logical than emotional. And that's not how Gohan should work, you know? He should be very much more emotional than logical sometimes to bring out that hidden power.
When you look at future Gohan, he had no training partners up until the point where Trunks was older and was strong enough to even spar with him, because the manga shows that Trunks was already a Super Saiyan training with Gohan and implies that they were at least training together for a while. Whereas the anime adaptation made it seem like Trunks never trained with Gohan throughout his entire life, and one day after the androids had attacked the city, it's like Trunks decided that he finally wanted to become a student of Gohan, which made it seem like they were training for a lot less time. But when you consider the fact that the manga version of Trunks already knew how to go Super Saiyan, you would think they were at least training for a lot more time.
It is different in the movie. Yo, it's all different too. It is all different. You gotta determine what you want to go off of. Do you want to go off of the manga? Do you want to go off of the anime? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's all different. I think in the anime, he only turns Super Saiyan when he sees Gohan dead. But in the manga, he somehow turns Super Saiyan, then starts training with Gohan. But it turns out not to be enough. So it all ends the same anyway. It's just some key points happen at a different time. Yeah, that is kind of important as well, because if Trunks can go Super Saiyan before him and Gohan go to the past, then it's going to make it significantly easier on Gohan. But if he can't, then everything still has a chance to go how it was originally, like Cell reaching his perfect form, and then the younger Gohan still having just to be that guy to defeat Cell. It all depends how you look at it.
So because of this, Gohan was at a handicap because he didn't have anybody who was alive and strong enough to push him into becoming a lot stronger, because even though Gohan was very complimentary towards the young Trunks in the manga adaptation, you have to go back and look at the fact that Gohan was fighting off a Super Saiyan Kid Trunks in his base form with one arm, which clearly means that even though he was complimentary and thought that Trunks could pass him in a few months, there was clearly still a massive power gap. And when Trunks finally got strong enough to train with Gohan years later, Gohan was already dead. Now, we also have to point out, too, that Gohan had no assisted training. So this is a version of Gohan that...
Yeah, y'all didn't make this point. Bro, Gohan definitely didn't have anybody who could contend him in power but the androids. But, you know, how would you get power in this scenario? I said, why couldn't just Gohan and Trunks go to Namek and get the Namekian Dragon Balls? But it's like they didn't know where the Namekians were at the time, or they didn't know the location of New Namek. And then somebody said Android 17 and 18 was just digging that much. If Bulma was to make a time machine, they would just come and destroy it. But we all know that's not true because they didn't destroy the time machine that Trunks used anyway. So I'm gonna just go with they didn't know the location of New Namek. But at the same time, it baffles me because Bulma's still alive. I don't care, bro. If Bulma is still alive, there is a possibility she could probably whip up something out of her ass. We've seen it hundreds of times before. I just think they wanted to make this timeline sad just for the plot.
Never went into the Room of Spirit and Time, and this is also a version of Gohan that never had any gravity training. So in terms of actual training, he would have never have gotten the specific ingredients to make him strong enough to fight the androids. And the last big reason as to why future Gohan never reached his full potential, even though there's a whole lot more, is the fact that he never had the vision. You gotta remember that this is a version of Gohan that only witnessed Super Saiyan and never thought to manipulate the Super Saiyan form into becoming another transformation which can aid him in battle. This is a Gohan that never had that vision, but this is very different because when you look at the main timeline and you see what the more experienced fighters were doing, they had the idea that they could get stronger by learning and improving their Super Saiyan transformations, and because Gohan lacked this vision in the future timeline, he was never able to really get stronger because he thought Super Saiyan was the best a Saiyan could ever get.
Yeah, and that's why I feel Goku is so important, because even if he's not the strongest, his impact is more than just strength in the series. He gives people an idea of how to go about things. His critical thinking and decision making is just phenomenal in the Dragon Ball Z series. And then that's what I kind of feel like is lost in the Dragon Ball Super series. In critical times, his decision making is pretty good. Like how he decided to instant transmission Cell to King Kai's planet. Stuff like that matters. It's not just the strength that matters, but it's just that when Goku's there, it gives everybody like a sense of, oh, it's gonna be okay. No matter if he's the strongest or not. I can't explain it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Goku, he's just the symbol of hope. No glazing, by the way.
Which makes the manga adaptation more bleak and hopeless than the anime adaptation because of the fact that in the anime, there was all of this talk of Gohan wanting Trunks to become a Super Saiyan, but he lacked the motivation. But in the future timeline, Trunks had Super Saiyan, Gohan had Super Saiyan, and neither of them stood a chance against the androids. But apart from just trading...
That's why I said it really depends what you want to go off of, though. But in the end, if Gohan was just able to kill the android just because he just got stronger or he ascended, then y'all don't want two Gohans to go against Perfect Cell. Even though this one might be a little bit weaker than the one in the timeline that we know, that still would prove to be too much for Cell.
There are also major disadvantages that future Gohan has, and we would have to pick what specific point he would kill the androids, because you're talking about a Gohan who has one arm, and then Gohan is also in a potential 2v1. Remember, in the manga adaptation, Gohan only fought against 17, which makes it even more hopeless too, because if 17 alone can kill him, that means that if Gohan could realistically defeat or get an edge against 17, 18 would just jump in and he would stand no chance. And last but not...
That's what they did anyway. Every time Gohan got an advantage over 17, 18 would just come in and they would just both jump him. That's how they couldn't stand a chance. He couldn't stand a chance, bro. It just wasn't a fair fight. Now, if Trunks was still strong enough to really hold his own in that fight, then it'd be a different story. But Trunks wasn't strong enough to really do anything against the androids until he came back from the future after Cell's defeat. So it really didn't matter.
At least this is something that a lot of you guys have talked to me about in the comment section about emotions, because if you look at future Gohan, he's a lot less emotional as compared to the main timeline version of Gohan, who was a much younger Gohan.
He's not emotional in the future. He needs to be more emotional. They got Gohan out there thinking logical and all that, trying to be like his father. He's trying to be like his father instead of Gohan himself. That's why he failed. If Gohan was just being Gohan, raging, emotional, he would have probably defeated the androids or something would have happened. But since he just tried to be a Goku 2.0, it didn't work out. You're not being yourself at that point. So you can't unlock your true power.
And because he was much younger and he didn't have that control over his emotions as much, that was actually a gift in a way. But the problem with Gohan's emotions was that he was never able to use his emotions in a controlled manner until he came out of the Room of Spirit and Time, then turned into a Super Saiyan 2 against Cell. His emotions always were like an explosion of attacking his opponent, but it was never something that he could actually use in a controlled form. Because the problem is, when he was younger, he was too young and inexperienced to fight the androids, so even if he had an emotional outburst, it wouldn't have been enough. And as an adult, he didn't even have the emotional part that would have helped. So for all of those reasons, we are saying that this is an unrealistic what if. But what if we have fun with the topic and say that one day, as an adult, let's just use the final battle that Gohan had as an example, he somehow just got really, really angry and managed to kill 17 and 18. Now, this creates a lot of questions.
That's all you gotta say.
Future timeline, and the first one is, well, how would this change the way Trunks is? We've talked before at length about how a training partner has a significant impact on your growth. Gohan was stronger than Trunks, so when the stronger person dies, it makes it harder for the weaker person to get stronger. Just look at Gohan, for example. Goku and Piccolo died, and look at how hard it was for him to get stronger in that timeline. But despite that disadvantage, Trunks managed to at least approximate Gohan's strength in those 3 years. In a world where Gohan killed the androids, would Trunks be a lot weaker because the androids are gone, considering the fact that Trunks is the only other person who could fight with him? I feel that...
Again, it just depends how you look at it. Yes, he would be weaker, but that experience he would gain going into the future, him fighting Cell and the androids all over again. Because mind you, when Cell was defeated and Trunks went back into the past, he was significantly stronger than when he came because of that training with his father in the hyperbolic time chamber, him fighting along the Z fighters trying to take down Cell. All that is experience. So when he came back, he was just too much for 17 and 18 to handle. So even if he did come to the future weaker, I still feel like they still go through with the hyperbolic time chamber training and Trunks still comes out stronger. So it don't really matter if he goes there weaker, he's still gonna come back stronger than ever. Same thing with Gohan too.
Trunks and Gohan would still continue to train and fight in that world because the world is still destroyed and it's going to take a lot of time for humanity to rebuild itself. As a matter of fact, I think Trunks would have gotten even more powerful considering that Gohan would have stayed alive and it would have helped him with his training. And at the same time, that also means that Gohan would have gotten a lot stronger too, because as Trunks gets stronger, Gohan would have gotten stronger too, and it would have been mutually beneficial for both. Now, with the trajectory of these two stronger Saiyans, what would happen next?
Alright, so here's the thing. Does he still have them going to the past to try to fix the future? Or is it like, oh yeah, Gohan just killed the android 17 and 18? Because if you don't have future Gohan and Trunks going to the past, yeah, the Z Fighters are fucked. But if they still go to the past, then it's like, it's going to be significantly easier for everybody.
Next major threat would be Cell when he eventually shows up. Now the thing is that with the androids gone, it's very likely that with a lot of training far into the future that Gohan and Trunks together could defeat one imperfect Cell. And as a post edit, it's also important to mention that the future version of Cell would be a lot weaker than what we saw in the main timeline, because in the future timeline he can only absorb the small amount of humans that are still left alive. And you have to factor in that even if Gohan was able to defeat the androids and humanity started rebuilding itself earlier, humanity would still have a lot more people than what Cell would have had later on when he showed up, but it wouldn't have been enough humans for Cell to become significantly stronger than a combined duo of Gohan and Trunks. Now, you have to remember that we're talking about the original timeline of Dragon Ball, which is almost a parallel of the history of Trunks' timeline, except to the point where because there was a timeline divergence, Trunks became self-aware that Cell was a time traveler, and as a result of that, when he went back to the future, he managed to actually kill Cell instead of Cell hijacking him, and also that version of Trunks had actually gotten stronger in the Room of Spirit and Time in the present timeline, whereas the Trunks in the original timeline that went to the unseen timeline, which is a whole other conversation for another day, most likely killed the androids by a deactivation device based off of a whole bunch of things that I've already explained.
And then Cell killed Trunks. It's really confusing. It's really confusing how you look at it, because this Trunks right here, that's how I would have Trunks coming back anyway, even if Gohan did survive. So it's like now the future is safe, because not only do you have this version of Trunks, but then you have a Gohan that's on par with Cell Games Gohan from the timeline that we all know. That's kind of overpowered if you ask me. That's enough just to keep this world safe for the time being.
One Cell versus two hybrid Saiyans that constantly train is not going to win that fight in all likelihood. So I do feel that we can confidently say that Cell would have lost to a combined Gohan and Trunks force.
Easily.
Now, and you can potentially look at this as good news too, but if Cell were to somehow defeat them, he wouldn't be able to go back to the past and cause even more problems and more timelines. But now that leads us to an even bigger question. Would Bulma have finished the time machine in this what-if scenario? This is a complex question.
You see, and here's the problem, because if she doesn't, then stuff gets kind of sticky. But if she does, it turns out better for everyone. So Bulma still needs to work on that time machine, even if Gohan does survive. You still got to go through with the plan and try to fix something at least.
Because there's a divergence between the manga and the anime, because if you look at the anime adaptation right after future Gohan lost his arm and was beaten up by the androids and Trunks brought him home after Gohan had given him a senzu bean, you can see in the background that the anime version of future Bulma was already working on a time machine. So how do we make a judgment call on this? Well, when you go back to a conversation that future Trunks had with everybody on a plane, he talked about how Bulma wanted to create a better reality than the world that they had had. And once again, the true answer is bad writing, but for whatever reason in the future timeline, King Kai and the Namekians never got in contact with any of our heroes. So as a result of it, Gohan never had any ability to bring anybody from the dead back to life and have any additional assistance. So
I'm saying, bruh, King Kai would have, if Bulma couldn't figure it out, King Kai would have definitely knew where the Namekians were, bro. You go to their planet, you get the Dragon Balls, bro. Like, there's no possible way. We all know Dragon Ball. We all know Dragon Ball, how it works, how the world works. There's no way that there's no way. There's no way that there's no way to fix everything. Like, you understand? There's always a way. Even if Goku somehow lost to Frieza on Namek, it really didn't matter, because they would just bring him back to life anyway using the Namekian Dragon Balls. So at that point, they shouldn't have said that, because it just diminishes the impact that fight had. Knowing, okay, if Goku loses, they would still have some time to bring him back, because Frieza would still be blown up into space. He would survive, by the way, but they would still have a little bit of that breathing room to bring him back. And then they would have to fight him again. I don't know, bro. Or not lose per se, but say Goku still beats Frieza, but he gets blown up. You know, the planet blows up, he didn't make it off in time, they wish him back with the Dragon Balls. Easily. So, at that point, there's always a way to fix something. There's always a way, I promise you. There's no way the world ever ends up like this, realistically. But since Toriyama wanted to make a sad future, he wanted to make something that had impact, I get it, bro, I get it. But realistically, there was hella ways to avoid this.
Because of this, all of this would suggest that Bulma would still create a time machine. But here's the thing. In trying to bring up what would happen if Bulma actually made a time machine, that actually leads to a completely different conversation. So we're going to focus this video strictly on the future timeline and assume that these characters just continued to live their lives and Bulma stopped the production of trying to create a time machine, because that's a whole other topic that would take a lot more time to go into. So without creating a time machine, where does this lead all of us? By crossing our fingers and hoping that at some point the Namekians on New Namek somehow found a way to get in contact with them. even though the
Oh,
writing
yeah.
wasn't designed for them to do this at this point, because the
Yeah.
whole new Namek thing really came into the Android arc where Goku had instant transmission and he can go find them and fix all of these problems. If the Namekians were somehow able to use the Dragon Balls and bring back the Z Fighters, that at least gives us some hope. Now, granted, they would still be a lot weaker than what they would have been in the main timeline for all of the battles that they got theoretical Zenkai booster training or all of that, all of the different things that they went through in transformations. So with all of that said, our heroes most likely would have had a positive outcome.
They would have been weaker, but it still helped, you know, especially since Trunks and Gohan is stronger now. It gives people like Vegeta, Piccolo some motivation to get stronger. And then we don't know what happened since then. You know, anything can happen. But I fear Goku probably still's not gonna get wished back because he died from a heart virus. So Goku is probably still going to be dead, most likely. But if you have Vegeta, Piccolo, I guess Krillin and Yamcha and Tien, it might all still work out, right? Gohan just gonna have to be that guy.
If we cross out some future ultimatums going into Dragon Ball Super, like Beerus destroying Earth, Frieza somehow coming back, or Zeno.
Yeah, Frieza coming back. Hey, they better train their ass off. They better train their ass off, bro. I promise you. I don't know how they deal with that. I'm not even gonna get into Super. I can't get into Super, bro. Because it's just gonna be too much. It's gonna be too much to talk about. I can't get into Super, bro. All I can say is for Golden Frieza, they better work out something. Maybe Vegeta becomes a Super Saiyan God or something, or Gohan does. We don't know. Hey, as long as we know that to beat Golden Frieza, all you really need is Super Saiyan Blue. Even if that.
Just deciding to erase everybody from existence just because remember, in the history of Trunks timeline, Zeno erased everybody, but that was because of Zamasu, and in this situation, Zamasu would have never have interacted with her characters because Goku found out about Zamasu because a future Trunks traveled to the past, but with no time traveling, then there's really no possible way that Goku Black would have been created. So ultimately, guys, the
Gohan
biggest
Black?
what-if killer is that if Babidi and Dabura show up really early, our heroes are completely busted, and by hero.
Alright, so here's the thing about the Majin Buu saga. I feel like it still should go how it does, meaning Trunks just going Super Saiyan 2 and just defeating both of Dabura and Babidi and just preventing the whole Majin Buu resurrection as a whole. I'm not gonna get into that craziness, but I still have that going the same way. Or maybe Gohan and Trunks just combine their strength and do the same thing. They cannot let Majin Buu be resurrected. They can't let it happen. Oh my god, if they let that happen, bro.
Heroes, we just mean Trunks and Gohan, before the Namekians far in the future ever made any attempt to help our heroes. And remember, we're just making that up to create the idea of a possible outcome. But it really just ends with Babidi and Dabura because there's literally no way Gohan and Trunks would have ever gotten that strong with no assistance, no training, no knowledge of what they learned in the present timeline. And the problem with the Namekians,
I'm saying you gotta go to the past. They had to go to the past, bro. If they didn't go to the past, they wouldn't get as OP. They have to go to the past, bro. You have to have Bulma finishing that time machine, bro. There's no way.
in Dragon Balls is that the Namekian Dragon Balls can only bring people back who didn't die of natural causes, which is why if you go back to Guru came back very briefly because he died of a broken heart because of all of the Namekians dying on his planet. Now Goku died of a heart virus, which means that this is a timeline where Goku could literally never come back. Unless a Z-Sword is broken or somebody like breaks the divine rules for him, there's really no way Goku can come back, and the problem with it is Goku not coming back is very bad because even if he's not always the strongest character, as we saw in the main timeline, his leadership and ideas and decisions in these situations were an integral part of our character's survival.
Yes, sir, I
So
said
without
that.
it, even
I
if
said that.
all of the other Z fighters came back, they would stand no chance against future.
Yeah, Goku is still like that leader, bro. Like, he still got the best leadership, decision making in these situations. Besides giving Cell the Sensu Bean, but we ain't gonna get into that. But yeah, he was the whole reason he believed in Gohan defeating Cell. Y'all know what I mean. Like, he's still the guy.
Threats. So as you can see, guys, we tried as many positive routes as we possibly could, but without time travel, there's no possible way that this could lead to a good outcome. And whether or not it leads to a good outcome with time travel would take another 15 to 20 minutes in its own video.
So yeah, that video was a W, bro. That video was a W. Hey, let me know what you think is gonna happen if Gohan just end up beating Android 17 and 18. Do you think they still go back in the past to try to fix things? Do you think they just say fuck it and just, you know, live in the fucked up future? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your ideas, how you like this video. But anyway, I'm about to get out of here. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And until my next one, I'm out. Peace.